Sit. Up. This is Kodak. This is Kodak's roadmap to success. So Kodak's a great dog. He has some reactivity issues. And so I talked to his guardian. We shot the video above about the elevator, what I call click for looks. Now, part of this, that's going to definitely help, and that's to treat the symptoms of him feeling territorial or insecure or whatever it is where he's reacting. But these behaviors also have a genesis. And a lot of this comes from a lack of structure or confusing messaging at home. So I'm going to go over kind of summarize all the stuff we went over. Now, it's really important that it's consistent. So we have a roommate here. So it'd be great if the roommate can watch this so that we're all on the same page. Because if Kodak is with one person and they act differently than with somebody else, dogs can compartmentalize, like, oh, when I'm with this person who's, the dog walker, I can get away with this, but when I'm here, this person expects that. So they can compartmentalize it, but if everybody is on the same page, it accelerates it dramatically, and the dog gets into a habit of, this is the behavior that I should do, whether I'm at house A, B, C, or D, or with a dog walker, or the roommate, or whoever it is. So we talked about a lot of fundamentals. Now, one of the first things that I always talk about my clients of is most of us actually reinforce the behaviors we don't want. So I like to call them desired behaviors and undesirable behaviors. It's not bad for a dog to get into the trash. We think about it as bad, but for a dog, it's really not bad. It's the dog wants to get in the trash, you don't want it, why can't I have it? I mean, you're a hater if you don't let me go in there. So we have to teach the dog to not get in there, not by just like saying, don't go in there. We have to maybe put the trash with something somewhat interesting. Every time the dog shows interest, we give them a cue to leave it alone, and when they do, we reward them. After we do that enough times, then the dog kind of is ready for that. There's a meme in the dog training world that says that training is not an emergency, and an emergency is not the time to train. But when it comes to dogs, we actually try to train them in the moment. We're going to train you to be comfortable putting the eardrops in when I'm putting the eardrops in, as opposed to leading you up and helping you understand the activity, having to practice each individual step, and then gradually ramping up the level of intensity so I go from a practice environment to the real world situation. That's what we expect as humans, but we often do not do for dogs, and this is why a lot of dogs fail or don't act the way that we want, because we have not properly taught them or instructed them how we want them to behave. So I want you to kind of think about it through that mindset, but also that everything we're doing has an influence on our dog. We can't say I'm actively training you now, but the rest of the time give you a bad example. For example, rewarding dogs by breaking rules. So if I don't want the dog to be near the table when I'm eating, and I finish my meal, I'm just about done, so I'm like, okay, Kodak, you did a good job. Here, let me give you a piece of steak. Breaking a rule for a dog is like giving an addict a hit of whatever they're addicted to. So now, Kodak is going to be more likely to come to me when I'm eating because I gave him some food before, maybe I'll do it again. Now, so you have to be mindful of what you're doing. And all attention from us as humans is rewarding and validating for a dog, unless you're being abusive, which is bad for obvious reasons. So if Kodak jumps up and I say no, or Kodak steals something, I say no, or shreds something, I say no, or barks and I say no. These are things that I call undesirable behaviors. I don't like doing any of those, but the dog only thinks about it as when I jump up or bark or steal things, I get my guardian's attention the majority of the time. That's why I practice something called celebrating. Celebrating is rewarding the dog when it voluntarily offers you the behavior that you like. And here's the list. When it comes to you, when it sits, when it lays down, when it gives you eye contact, if Kodak puts his chin on your thigh or on your shoe, when he drinks water. Drinking water, do you have to do that? No. But if I reinforce these behaviors that my dog offers voluntarily, it makes them more likely to do them again because they get rewarded for it. How do they know that that's what you wanted? That's why we use a marker word or a marker signal. We went over loading the marker word, so I'd like the guardian to walk around her house after I leave today, after watching this video, and just say good, yes. You say yes or good. Yes. Yes, and give them a treat. Then take a couple steps, yes, and give them a treat. Do that with about 12 to 20 treats. Do that today, twice, and then do that with your clicker twice as well. And then you only have to do that 4 to 6 times. And after a while, when I hear yes, Kodak's like looking around like somebody owes me a treat. That's making a classically conditioned response. That's the indicator. So from now, when the dog Kodak comes to me and sits down, let's see if he does right now. Yes. He didn't sit down, but he did come to me, and that's a desirable action. So if every time he comes to me, yes, he dropped something. Did I ask him to drop it? No, because when I ask him to do it, sometimes they feel like they're losing things. So if I wait and when he drops, or yes, he picks it up, or he grabs one of his toys, or he drinks water, or he goes poop, he comes to me, he gives me eye contact, and I say yes and pet him, that's the thing that he's going to start doing more often to get attention, because now barking, the human ignores me or leaves. But if I sit, then the guardian gives me attention. And I want attention, so I'm going to sit because that's proven to me that's what works. And I know it's what works because I hear the word yes or a click when my bottom hits the ground. When I make eye contact, I hear yes. When my chest hits the ground, yes. When I come to David. So these are things the dog's more likely to do. I call this celebrating. So that's the word that I often use in our puppy class. So if you're with your puppy and I see your puppy sit down next to you while you're looking at me, I would say celebrate. That means you would just say yes and pet your puppy under his chin. You don't need to know what it is, just say yes and pet them. So I'd like the roommate to do this. I'd like if Kodak stays at, somebody else's house, that they do this as well. And it takes about a month or two for us to get in a habit of it, but now, after a while, the dog starts recognizing that sitting is a great way to get attention, laying down, and so on. Now, I also teach dogs manners. Now, Kodak likes to come up and paw at people and nudge at people and kind of rub into them. And that's kind of his way of saying, give me some attention. And is that wrong? No, but he isn't necessarily asking in the most polite way. So the nice way to do that is Kodak. So if I'm Kodak, so if I have a treat, he's nudging for attention, I say sit. Yes. And then I pet him. If he didn't sit when I said it, I only say it one time. If he didn't sit, then I would lean back, go back to watching TV, playing a video game, writing a song, whatever it is that you were doing. I'm not saying bad dog, you didn't do what I wanted. I just went on to the thing that I was doing before. After a while, Kodak will recognize, if I want the humans to pet me, I am expected to either sit or lay down. And you can think of asking your dog to sit or lie down as a way of saying please or thank you. After a while, Kodak will come start sitting in front of people to pay for the attention and say, please, I'd like some attention. And when he does, you bet your bottom, you better say yes and start scratching in his butt or wherever else it is. I have several clients whose dogs have done such a good job of this, they'll come and sit in front of you, and if you don't start petting them, they'll resit and resit, because in their mind, that is how you say, please, can I have some attention? So manners is the watchword I use for this. So if Koda's jumping up on me, Kodak is jumping up on me and I'm absent-mindedly petting him, and his guardian says manners, I would stop petting him, say, Kodak, sit. If he sits, then I would say yes and pet him under his chin, and if he doesn't, I go back to doing what I was doing before, except for not petting him. So after a while, I'll get in the habit of when he comes over to me, tell him to sit and then pet him, say the marker word yes, and then pet him. So celebrating is rewarding him when he voluntarily offers that, sits, lays down, comes to you, eye contact. I also do it when my dog drinks water or picks up a toy or drops a toy. But you can do it for anything. Every time your dog stretches, say yes and pet him after a while. Now, after a while, the dog starts stretching more and more because it gets attention afterwards each time. Now we're ready to add the cue. The cue is the word that tells the dog to do the action. You should not say a cue unless you are 90% certain when you say it, the dog will do the action. So if I say sit, the dog doesn't sit, and I say sit, come on buddy, sit, sit, he's practicing not listening to me. So if I want to teach a dog to sit that doesn't know how to sit, I pick a treat, I put it up to the dog's nose, I lure them into a sit. When their butt hits the ground, I say yes, I don't say sit. Then I take a step away, the dog gets back up, I lure them into a sit again, yes. Every time the butt hits the ground, yes. When I do that, and it becomes very easy, every time I'm doing it now, I lure the dog, I can get it to sit, then I sneak the word in first. You say the word before the action. So I would go, yes, yes, and now I would say, sit, yes. So I snuck the word in before the action. After a while, you say sit, the dog's butt hits the ground. You don't have to say yes. Most people continue to do so. There's nothing wrong with it. I do. Because that reinforces the behavior. But that's how you introduce the cue. And if you say the word over and over again and the dog doesn't do it, you're helping the dog practice not listening to you, and you're lowering the value of that word. So it's really important that we're all consistently doing this. So I love everybody to be celebrating when Kodak does things that we like, and when he is demanding attention, pawing or nudging us. Sit. Yes. Sit. Fetch. So when I'm playing fetch, tell him to sit. When he sits, then pick up the ball and say fetch as you throw it. Now, because he loves to ball, loves to play fetch, I would recommend the guardian get herself an iFetch. The big, more robust version is about 150, 160 bucks. It's a white machine that looks nice that you can train your dog to go drop a ball in and it'll shoot it across the room. Since he loves playing fetch, this would be a great way for him to get some energy when his guardian is home working or even if she's out and about, so he can play fetch by himself. Let me see. We also went over sniffing burns more energy on walks than almost twice as much than not sniffing. So when you're walking him, let him do as much sniffing as possible. Try to avoid pulling him on a leash. Lead him up to the places he's going to want to sniff as long as it's safe to do so. We can also exercise our dog before the walk if it's very high energy. So we play fetch maybe for 5 minutes, give him 10 minutes of rest, and then go for a walk. That might produce a much better walk. So letting him sniff on a walk is a great way to burn energy. You can also play tug of war. We were doing that earlier, another great way to burn energy. Playing fetch is a great way to burn energy. So those are physical forms of exercise, but there's also mental stimulation. I'd love the guardian to get a snuffle mat, that floor mat that I showed you in the video. You want to play tug? And that lets the dog burn energy by eating because it's hunting its food. It's got to look for the kernels in between the shag carpet and the snuffle mat. We can also feed out of a tricky trainer treat ball or elder puzzles, which the guardian does here a little bit as well. And that's also something great to give your dog when guests are around, so that way the dog has something else to do. We also went over cookie in the corner. Yes, he just dropped it. I didn't ask him to, but I'm celebrating it. That's a wonderful demo. Thank you. So we also went over cookie in the corner. That's the throwing the treats in the ground and clicking every time your dog gets it. I have a video for that if you forget how to do that. Now, when you have guests come over, because he's a little bit excited for guests, we can set him up for success. So before you take him over to maybe mom and dad's house or before you have guests over, get him some exercise first. Take him for a 15-minute sniff walk. Then make sure he has 10 or 15 minutes to recover. And then if you have 4 friends coming over at 6 o'clock, maybe have one come at 6 o'clock, one come at 6:15, one come at 6:45, one come at 7 o'clock. So now we have the people come by every 15 minutes. We meet outside. So I would do a little treat trail or go to an area and just do some of the find it game out in front. And then basically I like the treat trail because he leads up to somebody and then the person just holds the treat off to the side and licks off their hand. Try to avoid, if you're one of the people, his friends watching, don't lean over him, don't talk to him. Just if he comes up to you, just be passive, let him sniff you. And then when he gets done sniffing, take a treat and hold it off to your side like this, let him lick it off your hand. Don't try to pet him after that. And then after that, you can go for a little 5-minute walk, and on the walk, the guardian can maybe give me the leash. I hold on the leash, I'm telling him every once in a while, sit. He sits, I say yes, give him a treat. So now he's practicing listening to your guest. You exercise him, set him up for success. You met outside, so if he's got the bouncies and some energy, he can bounce around a little bit. You go for a little mini sniff walk that burns some energy. He gets a lot of treats when he meets the person, which is a good positive. And then he practices listening to the person and getting rewarded for listening to the person. And then we come up to the apartment. So now he just got a nice little 10-minute greeting with that person. And the next person shows up 5 minutes later. We repeat that. So instead of having 4 people come and this crescendo of energy, we set them up for success. And that's why I talk to a lot of my clients about, instead of actually reacting when you have people come over, is to actually stage scenarios. Go through your contacts list on your phone. Find a friend that you haven't seen that hasn't met him, so they can practice with the elevator. So they're riding the elevator. You're in the lobby. Every time they open the elevator, they throw a treat out, and then they close the door. They go up the stairs and they go up the floor, come back down, throw a treat out. Or you're arranging to have somebody come and practice the greetings. And then after he's met them and he's comfortable with them, then you guys come up here and drink some wine or watch the TV or whatever it is you want to do for fun. So you're having somebody come over with the goal of helping you with this. Especially, let's say you're going to have a birthday party for your roommate, and have your friends come over and meet him individually. So you've already done this, and you're doing this when you're not the host, or you're spending the time. You exercised him first, and you have the time to really set him up for success. Most of us set our dogs up to fail. We don't teach it how to behave. We don't prepare it, and then we put it in this really difficult situation, and we get mad when they fail. Well, that's really my fault as the guardian. My job is to set my child up for success or my dog up for success. We do that by teaching them what to do in slow segment easy environments that gradually get more and more challenging as the dog develops its skill set and understands what you want from them. Now, we also went over, let me see.
Talk about the petting, the reading the language.
The body language, okay. So dogs normally, I started doing this in the video above, but he was a little barky. So when I'm looking at dogs' body language, the first thing I do, well, actually, I'll talk about consent first. So most of us, we reach and pet on top of the head. Dogs don't like that. Other dogs will dominate a dog by putting their paw on top. So the best place to pet a dog is really under the chin, on the chest, or on the two shoulders. And if somebody wants to meet my dog, I always ask them to hold their hand out so my dog can sniff them first. But only if I don't think my dog is going to bite them. If I think my dog's going to bite them, then that would probably invite a bite. So what I do is I hold my hand out and the dog touches his nose to your hand. Then I tell the people, he likes being petted on his chin. And then they reach underneath and they pet him there instead of reaching on top, which is where everybody goes. A lot of dogs, when you reach over them, they cower down, their ears flip back, or they turn their head, their eyes get big, they get stiff, they breathe heavy, their tail goes up or tucks. Those are all cutoff signals. Those are the dog's way of saying, I don't like this interaction. And what do? We reach over, the dog ducks its head down, and we keep on petting them anyways. One day, that dog is not having a good day, and like people reach over my head, and I'm turning my head to the side, I'm licking my lips, I'm kind of cowering. I'm telling you I don't like this, and you do it anyway, so I nip at you. And what happens? You back away. Oh, so if you don't want humans to bite you or to pet you, just air bite them and they'll go away. This is where a lot of dogs develop that behavior. So what I always tell people, if people want to meet my dog, I always just say, and I think that it's going to go well, I get a sign, not the other people. If I think my dog doesn't like that person for whatever reason, I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry, I just found out my dog has a ringworm, it's contagious, no humans are supposed to pet him while he's going through treatment. They'll like back up and walk away, and that's fine, because that's all you want to accomplish. But if I do want to meet them, I have them hold their hand out first, and I probably give them a couple treats. Can I pet your dog? Would you like to give him a treat? I would love to give him a treat. Sure. Here you go. Give him a treat. Here, give him another one. Give him another one. Now the dog's probably in a good mood. Here, give him another one. Pet him under his chin. He likes it on the chin. The dog's like, yeah, well, you got any more treats for me? But at any point, if the dog starts turning away or edging away, then we listen to what the dog says and we stop the interaction. The person won't. Step in front of him if you have to, or walk him away. Once he's reacting, there's nothing you can do other than increase distance. Telling him he's a bad dog, holding his mouth closed, spanking and punishing him. I'm saying the guardian's doing this, but these are common things people do to a bad dog. No, if I'm freaking out because of spiders and a spider falls in my head and my partner says, shut up, you're being a baby, that's not appropriate. I'm freaking out because I have a genuine emotion. So if your dog is freaking out, it's hysterical. Just move him away. Don't try to correct him. Don't try to make him, definitely don't make him sit or lay down. Move him away. And if your dog wants to move away from something they're fearful of, let them and say the marker word and pet them when they do. Yes, I like it when you move away from things you're fearful of. Do that again. That's much better than barking, biting, and lunging someone. That's why I tell people don't make your dog sit if they're uncomfortable around something, because that makes them feel trapped. Now I have a fight or flight response, but my flight is removed. So all I have is left is the fight part. Reading dogs' body language, I look at them in snapshots. First thing I look at the head. Is the head is nose up or down? Confident is more up, insecure is down. In the middle, just neutral is just in the middle. Are the ears just where they normally are, or are they pinned back? Pinned back can be a sign of excitement or fear or anxiety. So I look at those. Then I look at the mouth. Is the mouth open, which is pretty normal? The dog goes from closes the mouth and gets stiff and stares, and that's a big warning. Your job is to recognize your dog's body language and get your dog out of there before they have to. By the time they're barking, that's several warnings they've given. So if you see them go from an open mouth to a closed mouth, especially with a hard stare, move your dog away. Also be aware of your environment. Sometimes things that we take for granted are like, what's your big deal? What are you barking at? There's a lawn maintenance guy. There's a weed eater. There's a truck backing up. There's a kid crying through a window. Those are things that we filter out that can actually be contributing factors. Often there are multiple things that are at play. So after I looked at the dog's head, mouth is open, also the eyes. The eyes are really big and wide as saucer, and the pupils are dilated. That's usually arousal. Or if you see a lot of white in their eye and they're looking at it from the side, that's called whale eye. When they're nice and relaxed, usually they have what we call sleepy eyes. They almost like they're squinting, and they're softer. The body language looks softer. So I look at that, and then so after I look at the head, then I look at the tail. Is it up? Is it up stiff? Is it moving really fast? Those can be signs of territoriality or aggression or fear or anxiety or just being on alert. Or is it tucked underneath, phallically? Then that's very fearful. I'm not going to expose my dog to things when it's showing a lot of fear. I'm going to do what I did in the living room with showing the dog how to be comfortable with the ears by making it in small stages and help the dog practice each segment of the activity until they're confident of that one. Then only go to segment 2 and I build towards the final activity. And so we want to create these situations where it's positive for our dogs as opposed to just putting them in situations they're not ready for. So then I look at the dog's, going back to body language, is the dog breathing heavy or holding his breath? Also indications of stress or anxiety. Is he leaning towards something or away from something? Also another indicator. And then I look at the overall dog body language. Is it normally, dogs are normally wiggly and jiggly, kind of relaxed and loose. So if you see them stiff, closed mouth, hard eyes, ears are pinned back, they're breathing heavy, the tail's up, those are pretty big indicators I don't feel comfortable. What's coming next? A bark and a lunge. So if you can start recognizing one or two of those signals, you're walking down the street, all of a sudden you see the tail go up and the dog kind of lowers its head and starts staring. And you see a dog that just turn around the corner, walking from the side, walking on your block. I might turn around and walk the other way or across the street. I'm going to increase distance so the dog doesn't have to. So if you do that, after a while the dog feels comfortable. What a lot of people don't realize, dogs learn through association. So if you're walking down the street with him, hey, thank you, buddy. So I'm rewarding the kisses. Nibbling, we don't really want to nibble on. No. That's something that I would not recommend letting him mouth you. Now, if I say no or get down or push him down, then I can create a positive for this. So what I'm doing is just disengaging and becoming boring. So he got down. And then if I wanted to pet him, I would tell him to do something else. I'm not going to pet him for getting down because the only way to get that reward for getting down is starting by jumping up. Yes, but he went and got a toy, and I'm going to give him a lot of attention for that because he wanted to put something in his mouth, and he got something. And so I'm going to reward him. And look, I'm playing with his ears, which he didn't like earlier. That also helps with some other stuff. Yes, there you go, buddy. Fetch. All right. So, but it's really important that we're mindful of what we're doing. So if I'm walking him, and I see another dog, and then I get stiff, and I make the tent, and pulling on the leash is a very classic thing we do. We pull on the leash, and then he feels the tension. He's like, what's different? We were just nice and relaxed, and suddenly you got stiff, David. What's different? Oh, that neighbor that just walked outside? I'll go bark at him for you. The dog thinks the neighbor is what made me nervous, but really what it was, I'm walking and I saw the neighbor, and then I got nervous, but he thinks it came from the neighbor. So it's really important you project confidence and being comfortable. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you don't get up in that situation. So if you're walking him and you know something is going to cause a trigger, turn around and walk somewhere else. If you make sure that you manage the situation, he doesn't get reactive, then you're going to learn to manage your own emotional state. And then after a while, I was like walking by. Yeah, there's somebody walking by, but David seemed pretty relaxed. Since David's so relaxed, even though there's somebody new walking by, I'm not that worried about it. And again, the exercises we did in the video above will help him gradually to build that positive association with people. Trying to think. Make sure you feed him. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the snuffle mat and everything else. And anything else you want me to go over? I think we covered it all. It's like I've done this video before. What's that?
Oh, the neighbor.
The sounds, so what I would do is, I don't want to go through this because it's a pretty long video. If you go to doggonproblems.com and click on where it says dog training tips, I have all these videos, literally like about 11,000 videos. Search for barking or counter conditioning. The title of the write-up is going to be what the educational video is there. And basically just barking or counter conditioning. And you'll find a bunch of videos where I show you how to program your dog or desensitize your dog and counter condition them so they don't bark at sounds outside your doorway or knocks the door, or whatever those are. And if you have difficulty finding those, just message me and let me know. I'm happy to go over with it. All right. Now, this is my buddy. Let me see. Can you sit? Yes, this is my buddy Kodak. He's a Kodak moment, you know. And this is Kodak's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.